I stood in front of my beautiful mansion, feeling a mix of sadness and betrayal. The once manicured lawn was now overgrown, and the sound of silence was deafening. It had been 12 long years since I'd seen my grandson, Jack. His parents, my son and daughter-in-law, had passed away in a tragic accident, and I was left to care for him. But as he grew older, he became more and more distant, eventually cutting me out of his life completely. I had tried to reach out to him numerous times, but he never responded. It was as if I was a ghost to him. The pain of his rejection was a heavy burden to bear, but I never gave up hope that one day he would come back to me. That day arrived, but not in the way I had expected. Jack stood before me, looking taller and more confident than I remembered. But it was the person standing beside him that caught my attention, a lawyer, with a smug look on his face. "Grandma, we need to talk," Jack said, his voice cold and detached. I felt a shiver run down my spine as he began to explain that he was contesting my will. I had left him my entire estate, worth $1.2 million, but now he was saying that he wasn't going to let me give it to charity. "You're not getting a dime, Grandma's estate is going to charity," he said, his voice dripping with malice. I was shocked. How could my own grandson do this to me? I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The lawyer stepped forward, a sly grin spreading across his face. "We have reason to believe that you were not of sound mind when you made your will, and therefore it is invalid." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were trying to say that I was crazy? That I didn't know what I was doing when I made my will? I felt a surge of anger and determination. I was not going to let them get away with this. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, and for the charity that I had chosen to leave my estate to. But as I looked at Jack, I saw something in his eyes that gave me pause. It was a glimmer of sadness, of regret. And in that moment, I knew that there was more to this story than met the eye. What was Jack's real motive for contesting my will? And what secrets was he hiding? I was determined to find out. I decided to take a deep breath and try to remain calm, despite the storm brewing inside me. I looked at Jack, trying to read his expression, but he just shrugged and looked away. The lawyer, sensing an opportunity, stepped forward again. "We have evidence, Mrs. Johnson," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "We have witnesses who will testify that you were not of sound mind when you made your will. We have documents that show you were taking medication for dementia, and we have records of your doctor's appointments." I felt a surge of indignation. How dare they? I was not a helpless old woman, unable to make my own decisions. I was a strong, capable person, and I knew exactly what I was doing when I made my will. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, Jack," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I can assure you that I am perfectly sane. I made my will with a clear head, and I knew exactly what I was doing." The lawyer sneered at me. "We'll see about that, Mrs. Johnson," he said. "We'll see about that." I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the extent of their plan. They were going to try to discredit me, to make me look like a foolish old woman who didn't know what she was doing. But I was not going to let them get away with it. "I want to see these witnesses," I said, my voice firm. "I want to see the documents you're talking about. And I want to know who is behind this, because I know it's not just you, Jack." The lawyer hesitated, looking at Jack uncertainly. Jack shook his head, and the lawyer seemed to deflate. "I'll get the documents," he said. "But I warn you, Mrs. Johnson, this is going to get ugly." I smiled, a cold, hard smile. "I'm not afraid of you," I said. "I'm not afraid of anyone. Bring it on." The lawyer nodded, and he and Jack left the room. I was left standing alone, feeling a mix of emotions. I was angry, and hurt, and scared. But most of all, I was determined. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, and I was going to win. As I stood there, trying to process what had just happened, I heard a noise behind me. I turned to see my housekeeper, Maria, standing in the doorway. "Mrs. Johnson, I couldn't help but overhear," she said, her voice low. "I'm so sorry. What can I do to help?" I smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude. Just be here for me, Maria, I said. Just be here for me, and help me get through this. Maria nodded, and she came over to me. We hugged, and I felt a sense of comfort wash over me. I knew that I was not alone, and that I had people who cared about me. But as I stood there, holding Maria, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Something didn't feel right. And I knew that I had to get to the bottom of it, no matter what it took. I pulled back from Maria, and I looked at her seriously. I need you to do something for me, I said. I need you to find out who was behind this. I need you to find out who was pulling the strings. Maria nodded, her eyes serious. I'll do it, Mrs. Johnson, she said. I'll find out what's going on, and I'll tell you everything. I nodded, feeling a sense of determination. I was going to get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. And I was going to make sure that justice was served. As Maria left to start her investigation, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. What was I going to find out? What secrets was Jack hiding? And who was behind this sinister plot? I didn't have the answers yet, but I was determined to find out. And I was going to stop at nothing to get the truth. I spent the rest of the day pacing back and forth in my living room, trying to make sense of everything. I was a mess of emotions, and I didn't know what to do. But as the sun began to set, I knew that I had to take action. I had to do something to protect myself and my estate. I picked up the phone, and I dialed a number. It was a number that I hadn't used in a long time, but I knew that it was the right one. Hello, a voice said on the other end of the line. It's me, I said. I need your help. There was a pause, and then the voice spoke again. What's going on? I took a deep breath, and I launched into the story. I told them everything, from Jack's sudden appearance to the lawyer's threats. I told them about the documents and the witnesses. And I told them about my suspicions. As I finished speaking, I heard a sigh on the other end of the line. I'll be right there, the voice said. I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. I knew that I was not alone, and that I had someone who could help me. But as I waited for my helper to arrive, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in grave danger. I was in a fight for my life, and I wasn't sure if I was going to come out on top. As the minutes ticked by, I heard a knock at the door. I got up to answer it, my heart pounding in my chest. I opened the door, and I saw a figure standing in the shadows. Thank you for coming, I said, feeling a sense of gratitude. The figure stepped forward, and I saw a face that I knew. It was a face that I trusted, and a face that I knew would help me get through this. I'm here to help you, the figure said. But I have to warn you, this is going to get ugly. Are you ready for what's coming? I nodded, feeling a sense of determination. I was ready for whatever was coming. I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. But as I looked into the figure's eyes, I saw something that made my blood run cold. I saw a glimmer of fear, and a glimmer of uncertainty. What is it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The figure hesitated, and then spoke. I've been investigating Jack, they said. And I think I've found something. Something big. I felt a surge of excitement, mixed with fear. What had they found? And what did it mean for me? I leaned in, my heart pounding in my chest. What is it? I asked again. The figure took a deep breath, and then spoke. I think Jack is in trouble, they said. I think he's in deeper than he knows. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the implications. Jack was in trouble, and I was in danger. But I was not going to back down. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, no matter what it took. As the figure began to explain what they had found, I listened with rapt attention. I knew that my life was about to change forever, and I was ready for whatever was coming. What do you mean he's in trouble? I asked, my voice low and urgent. The figure hesitated, looking around the room as if they were afraid of being overheard. I've been digging into Jack's past, they said, their voice barely above a whisper. And I think I've found something big. Something that could change everything. I felt a surge of excitement mixed with fear. What could Jack have done that was so bad? And how did it affect me? What is it? I asked again, my patience wearing thin. The figure took a deep breath, and then spoke. I think Jack is involved with some shady people, they said. People who will stop at nothing to get what they want. And I think he's in over his head. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the implications. Jack was in trouble, and I was caught in the middle. What kind of people? I asked, my voice firm. The figure hesitated, looking around the room again. I'm not sure, they said. But I think they're connected to the lawyer who came to your house. The one who's trying to contest your will. I felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. Who were these people, and what did they want? And how far would they go to get it? We need to get to the bottom of this, I said, my voice firm. We need to find out who these people are and what they want. The figure nodded, their eyes serious. I agree, they said. But we need to be careful. These people are not to be underestimated. They're ruthless, and they'll stop at nothing to get what they want. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew that I was in grave danger, but I was not going to back down. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, no matter what it took. As we began to discuss our plan of action, I heard a noise outside. It was a faint rustling sound, like someone was trying to sneak up on us. I felt a surge of fear, and I motioned to the figure to be quiet. We listened intently, and the rustling sound grew louder. It was someone, or something, trying to get our attention. I slowly got up from my chair, my heart pounding in my chest. I crept over to the window, and I looked outside. And what I saw made my blood run cold. There was a figure standing outside my house, watching us. It was a figure I didn't recognize, but I knew that they were connected to Jack and the lawyer. I felt a surge of fear mixed with anger. Who were these people, and what did they want? And how far would they go to get it? I turned to the figure, my voice low and urgent. We have to get out of here, I said. We have to get to a safe place, and we have to figure out what's going on. The figure nodded, their eyes serious. I agree, they said. But we can't just leave. We need to gather evidence, and we need to get to the bottom of this. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew that we were in grave danger, but I was not going to back down. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, no matter what it took. As we began to gather our things and make our escape, I heard the rustling sound again. It was louder this time, and it was closer. I knew that we were running out of time. We had to get out of there, and we had to get out fast. I grabbed my purse and my phone, and I followed the figure out of the house. We ran to the car, and we got in. As we drove away from the house, I looked back in the rearview mirror. And what I saw made my blood run cold. There were 3 figures standing outside my house, watching us. They were figures I didn't recognize, but I knew that they were connected to Jack and the lawyer. I felt a surge of fear mixed with anger. Who were these people, and what did they want? And how far would they go to get it? I knew that I was in grave danger, but I was not going to back down. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, no matter what it took. As we drove away from the house, I knew that I was in for the fight of my life. I was going to have to use all my strength and all my resources to protect myself and my estate. But I was ready. I was ready to fight, and I was ready to win. As we drove away from the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see one of the figures from outside my house following us. But there was no one. Just the open road and the darkness of the night. The figure driving the car, whose name was Alex, seemed to sense my unease. Don't worry, they said, their voice calm and reassuring. We'll be safe soon. We just need to get to a secure location and figure out our next move. I nodded, trying to take a deep breath and calm down. But my mind was racing. Who were those people outside my house? And what did they want? I knew that Jack was involved, but I had no idea what his end game was. As we drove, Alex filled me in on what they had discovered so far. It seems that Jack has been in financial trouble for a while, they said. He's been taking out loans and maxing out his credit cards. And then, suddenly, he comes into a large sum of money. It's like he's been waiting for something to happen. I frowned, trying to piece together the timeline. And what about the lawyer? I asked. Alex nodded. I think the lawyer is in on it too. I've been doing some research, and it seems that they have a history of working with shady clients. They're not exactly the most reputable lawyer in town. I felt a surge of anger. How could Jack do this to me? And how could he get involved with such unsavory characters? As we continued to drive, the tension in the car grew thicker. We were both on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then, suddenly, Alex's phone rang. They answered it, listening for a moment before their expression changed. We need to get off the road, they said, their voice low and urgent. Now. I looked around, trying to see what was wrong. But there was nothing. Just the darkness of the night and the open road. What is it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Alex's eyes were fixed on the rearview mirror. We're being followed, they said. And I think they're gaining on us. My heart sank. We were in trouble. Big trouble. Alex floored it, speeding down the highway as fast as they could. I held onto the seat, my knuckles white with fear. As we drove, the tension in the car grew thicker. We were both on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then, suddenly, we saw it. A car was following us, its headlights shining brightly in the darkness. Alex took a sharp turn, trying to lose the car. But it was too late. The car was right behind us, its occupants clearly visible in the rearview mirror. I gasped, my heart racing with fear. Who were these people? And what did they want? Alex took another sharp turn, trying to shake the car. But it was no use. We were being followed, and we couldn't get away. As we continued to drive, the tension in the car grew thicker. We were both on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then, suddenly, Alex's phone rang again. They answered it, listening for a moment before their expression changed. We need to get out of here, they said, their voice low and urgent. Now. I looked around, trying to see what was wrong. But there was nothing. Just the darkness of the night and the open road. What is it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Alex's eyes were fixed on the rearview mirror. They're not just following us, they said. They're surrounding us. We're trapped. My heart sank. We were in trouble. Big trouble. As we continued to drive, the tension in the car grew thicker. We were both on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then, suddenly, everything went black. I don't know what happened next. I don't know if we crashed or if someone hit us. All I know is that I was knocked out, and when I came to, I was in a dark room with no memory of how I got there. I was alone, and I was scared. I had no idea where I was or what was happening. But I knew one thing. I was in grave danger. And I had to get out of there, no matter what it took. As I slowly came to, I realized that I was in a dark, damp room. The air was musty and smelled of mold. I tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through my head, making me wince. I lay back down, trying to remember what had happened. The last thing I remembered was being in the car with Alex, trying to escape from the people who were following us. But now, I was alone. Where was Alex? And where was I? I tried to move, but my body felt heavy and uncoordinated. I must have been drugged or knocked out. I slowly sat up again, this time more carefully. The room was small and dingy, with stone walls and a low ceiling. There was a single door, made of thick wood, with iron hinges and a large iron knocker in the shape of a lion's head. I knew that I had to get out of there, but I had no idea how. I looked around the room, trying to find any clue or tool that could help me escape. But there was nothing. Just the stone walls, the wooden door, and a small, barred window high up on one wall. I knew that I had to be careful. If I was being held prisoner, then whoever was holding me was likely to be watching me closely. I slowly got to my feet, testing my balance. I was a bit dizzy, but I could stand. I walked over to the window, trying to see out. But it was too high, and I couldn't see anything except for a small patch of sky. I knew that I had to find a way to get out of there, but I had no idea how. As I stood at the window, I heard a noise behind me. The door creaked open, and a figure stood in the doorway. It was a woman, dressed in a long, black coat, with a stern expression on her face. "Welcome," she said. "I see you're awake." "That's good." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, trying to take in the situation. The woman walked into the room, her eyes fixed on me. "My name is Mrs. Smith," she said. "And you are?" I hesitated, unsure of what to say. But then I remembered who I was, and what I was doing there. "I'm Mrs. Johnson," I said. "And I demand to know what's going on." Mrs. Smith smiled, a cold, hard smile. "You'll find out soon enough," she said. "But for now, let's just say that you're a guest of mine. And you'll be staying with me for a while." I felt a surge of anger, but I knew that I had to keep my cool. I had to think clearly, and come up with a plan. "I want to see Alex," I said. Mrs. Smith raised an eyebrow. "Alex," she repeated. "Who's Alex?" I realized that I had made a mistake. I shouldn't have mentioned Alex's name. "No one," I said quickly. I just want to know what's going on." Mrs. Smith smiled again, her eyes glinting with amusement. "You'll find out soon enough," she said. "But for now, let's just say that you're in a bit of a situation. And you'll have to wait and see how it all plays out." I knew that I had to be careful. I had to think clearly, and come up with a plan. But as I stood there, facing Mrs. Smith, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in grave danger. And that I might not get out of there alive. As Mrs. Smith turned to leave, I called out to her. "Wait," I said. She turned back, a look of surprise on her face. "Yes," she said. "What's going on with Jack?" I asked. Mrs. Smith's expression changed, and for a moment, I saw a glimmer of something else. Something that looked almost like fear. "Jack," she repeated. "What do you mean?" I knew that I had hit a nerve. "I mean, what's going on with him?" I said. "Why is he doing this?" Mrs. Smith's expression changed again, and this time, I saw a look of cold, hard determination. "You'll find out soon enough," she said. "But for now, let's just say that Jack is in a bit of a situation. And you're right in the middle of it." I knew that I had to be careful. I had to think clearly, and come up with a plan. But as I stood there, facing Mrs. Smith, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in grave danger. And that I might not get out of there alive. As Mrs. Smith turned to leave, I felt a sense of frustration and desperation wash over me. I was no closer to understanding what was going on or how to escape. I decided to try and stall for more information, hoping to glean something from Mrs. Smith's cryptic responses. "Wait," I said, trying to sound calm and non-threatening. "Can you at least tell me why I'm here? What do you want from me?" Mrs. Smith paused, her hand on the door handle. She seemed to consider my question for a moment before responding. "You're here because you're a part of something bigger than yourself," she said. "Something that requires your participation." Her words were vague and unsettling, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. "What do you mean?" I pressed, trying to keep my voice steady. Mrs. Smith's expression was unreadable. "All will be revealed in due time," she said. "For now, just know that you're safe. And that you'll be taken care of." I didn't believe her. I knew that I was in danger, and that Mrs. Smith was hiding something from me. But I also knew that I had to play along, at least for now. I nodded, trying to look compliant. "Okay," I said. "I'll cooperate. But please, just tell me what's going on." What's happening to me? Mrs. Smith's expression softened slightly, and for a moment, I thought I saw a glimmer of sympathy in her eyes. You'll find out soon enough, she said. But for now, just rest. You're going to need your strength. With that, she turned and left the room, leaving me alone and confused. I was trapped in a strange, unfamiliar place, with no idea what was happening to me or how to escape. And to make matters worse, I had the feeling that I was running out of time. I spent the rest of the day pacing back and forth in my cell, trying to come up with a plan. But every door I tried led to more questions, and every window I looked out was barred and secure. I was trapped, and I had no idea how to get out. As the hours ticked by, I began to feel a sense of desperation creeping in. I was going to have to think of something, and fast, or risk being stuck in this place forever. I started to think about my past, trying to remember anything that might be relevant to my current situation. But every memory I dredged up led to more questions, and every lead I pursued ended in a dead end. I was getting nowhere, and I was running out of time. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the cell, I realized that I was no closer to escaping than I had been when I first woke up. I was trapped, and I had no idea how to get out. And as the darkness closed in around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in grave danger. I was a pawn in a game I didn't understand, and I was running out of moves. I lay down on the narrow bed, trying to rest. But my mind was racing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I closed my eyes, trying to calm myself down. But as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pulled into a nightmare from which I might never awaken. As I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I kept thinking about Mrs. Smith's words, and the way she had looked at me with such a cold, calculating gaze. I felt like I was in grave danger, and I didn't know how to escape. But as I drifted off to sleep, I had a sudden realization. I remembered a conversation I had with Alex before we were captured. He had told me that he had a plan, a way to escape and bring down the people who were holding us captive. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I had to find out. I threw off the covers and got out of bed, my heart racing with excitement. I had to find Alex, and I had to find out what his plan was. I searched the cell, looking for any clue or hint that might lead me to him. And then, I saw it. A small piece of paper, hidden behind a loose stone in the wall. I pulled it out, and my heart leapt with joy. It was a note, written in Alex's handwriting. "Meet me in the garden at midnight," it said. "Come alone." I knew that I had to be careful, but I also knew that I had to take a chance. I had to trust Alex, and I had to trust that he had a plan. I waited until midnight, my heart pounding with excitement. And then, I made my way to the garden. It was dark and deserted, but I could see a figure waiting for me. It was Alex, and he was smiling. "I knew you'd come," he said. "I knew you'd trust me." I threw my arms around him, tears of joy streaming down my face. "I was so scared," I said. "I thought I was going to die." Alex held me close, his voice soothing. "You're safe now," he said. "We're going to get out of here, and we're going to bring down the people who are holding us captive." I pulled back, looking at him with wonder. "How?" I asked. Alex grinned. "I have a plan," he said. "And it's going to be beautiful." We made our way through the garden, avoiding the guards and the traps that were set to catch us. We moved quietly, our hearts pounding with excitement. And then, we reached the wall. It was high and imposing, but Alex had a rope and a grappling hook. He tossed the hook over the wall, and we climbed up, our hands and feet finding holds in the stone. We dropped down on the other side, our hearts soaring with joy. We were free, and we were together. And we knew that we would never be caught again. We made our way back to the town, our arms around each other. We knew that we would have to be careful, but we also knew that we would never be apart again. And as we walked, I saw something that made my heart leap with joy. It was Mrs. Smith, and she was being led away in handcuffs. She looked up, and our eyes met. And for a moment, I saw a glimmer of fear in her eyes. "You'll never win," I said, my voice cold and hard. "You'll never get away with what you've done." Mrs. Smith spat at me, but I just smiled. I knew that I had one, and that justice would be served. As we watched, the police took Mrs. Smith away, and we knew that she would never bother us again. We were free, and we were together. And we knew that we would always be safe. I turned to Alex, my heart full of joy. "Thank you," I said. "Thank you for saving me." Alex smiled, his eyes shining with love. "I'll always save you," he said. "I'll always be there for you." And as we hugged, I knew that I had found my soulmate. I had found the person who would always be there for me, no matter what. We walked away from the scene, our arms around each other. We knew that we would face challenges in the future, but we also knew that we would face them together. And as we disappeared into the crowd, I knew that I had found my happily ever after. I had found the person who would make me happy, and I had found the love that would last a lifetime. Epilogue. It's been a year since we escaped from the mansion. We've been living together, and we're happier than ever. We've been traveling the world, and we've been enjoying every moment of it. We've also been working on bringing down the people who were involved in the kidnapping. We've been working with the police, and we've been gathering evidence. And finally, we've gotten justice. The people who were involved in the kidnapping have been arrested, and they're facing trial. We're happy, and we're free. And we know that we'll always be together. As I look back on our journey, I realize that it was a wild ride. But it was also an incredible adventure. We faced challenges, and we overcame them. And in the end, we found love. I'm grateful for every moment of it. I'm grateful for the struggles, and I'm grateful for the triumphs. And I'm grateful for Alex, my soulmate, my partner, and my best friend. We'll always be together, and we'll always be happy. And that's the greatest gift of all.